Okay, welcome to the Vermont Legislative Tourism Caucus. It is Friday morning, April 30th, and today we have the pleasure of welcoming Amy Spear from the Vermont Chamber of Commerce and also the Vermont Independent Restaurants group, a newly established group. We have Leo O'Reilly, who is also, I believe, one of the co-founders of the Vermont Independent Restaurants. And also we have Darcy Carter from our Small Business Administration Vermont office. We're really going to focus on restaurants and the status of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund at the SBA, also economic recovery grants, and really want to hear what restaurants really need and are looking for as we enter in the final weeks of this legislative session. And what we can do as a caucus, what we can do as individual members to ensure our restaurants and our small independent restaurants especially are able to emerge successfully from this pandemic. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Amy. Amy, welcome again. Thank you so much for taking all your time throughout this session, helping us understand better the needs of the hospitality and tourism industry, and we really appreciate your help. So I'm going to turn it over to you right now, and thank you all for joining us. And as people have questions, just raise your blue hand. I'm keeping an eye out. So this is a discussion really more than anything else. So thank you, Amy.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. And thank you again for having me. I guess I wish I had more than doom and gloom to bring on the state of the hospitality industry, but I guess really how I want to start today is to contextualize everything with some numbers, just so we know kind of the field on which we're playing, both at the national level and then down a little bit more to the local level. I'll let Darcy and Leo go into some more specifics, but when we're looking at the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, so there's $28.6 billion in there right now. But the staggering difference is really the losses at the national level for restaurants. So restaurants have lost $270 billion nationally, and we're looking at a pot of $28.6 billion. So not one to do math live, but if you just put those two numbers together, it's very clear that the fund will be drawn down very quickly. So I guess that's the first thing to say, restaurants, while there is this great program at the federal level that they're so grateful for, we really don't know how many Vermont restaurants will be able to be served by this program, particularly until it goes live. Just one other number that's not quite as large as that $270 billion in losses at the national level for restaurants, but hotels and restaurants have used PPP, and this is a couple months old, but to the tune of $79 billion. So even when you put all of those numbers together, you can clearly see that, $28.6 billion in that fund is really great and will be very helpful for a lot of restaurants, but it's not going to make really folks whole, or it's unknown how many restaurants will be able to get that, particularly in Vermont. But I'll let Darcy go into the specifics on that, because I do want to give kudos to the SBA team, because the application process seems to be so much more streamlined than what Shuttered Venue is going through. And I just want to pass along kudos on the entrepreneurial thinking and trying to work as best you can with a struggling industry on that. Just one more number really to leave the caucus with before I let Darcy and Leo go into some specifics. So just to put some employment numbers here in Vermont to how restaurants are doing. So the food and accommodation sector is still down 9,000 workers compared to March of 2020. And when you go to food and drinking in particular, they're still down 4,700 workers. So right as everyone's gearing up to be so excited to go out to eat again and be with people and be in go dine at their favorite restaurant, there's still this crisis that folks are facing, where there's a significant workforce shortage. We have restaurants that are looking to add 75, 100 staff, and it's, the numbers are certainly real.
Amy, can you tell me, you said the food and accommodations is down 9,000, and then you said food and drink specifically is down how many?
4,700.
Okay.
So I guess while there's certainly a lot of optimism, there's a lot of fear and trepidation as people are trying to gear up and go back. So, restaurants are really looking for the road to recovery in 2022, and kind of 2021 is the on-ramp, returning to somewhat normal operations, but really 2022 is the light at the end for a lot of restaurants. So I'll stop there and take questions or let Darcy go into specifics.
Representative Peterson has a question.
Yes, thanks, Heidi, and thanks, Amy, for your presentation. The workforce shortage, did that exist pre-pandemic? Did you have?
Yeah, workforce has been a challenge in all of Vermont pre-pandemic, and I think that's going to be a leading issue as we emerge from the pandemic. The Vermont Futures Project, put out that 10,000 number several years ago, where we need 10,000 new workers in the workforce every year to essentially make it whole or really continue on as we need. And we're still short about 30,000 people in the workforce from pre-pandemic right now, and about 10,000 of them have left the workforce, mostly through retirement. So it's a problem that's going to be exacerbated, as we emerge.
It's worse now than it was prior to the pandemic.
At the moment.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Representative Byron.
Just a quick addition to that, Representative Peterson. This job market right now for hiring is the worst I've seen in my career. And I'm really not trying to be like hyperbolic. 25 years in this industry, I haven't seen people this stressed trying to find help. It's just the volume of staff that's needed. To Amy's point, I spoke to an operator in Middlebury the other day. They need about 25 or 30 people to operate their business at peak capacity, and they have 6 employees.
I know that there's a local restaurant here who's offering a signing bonus of $600, but it's not going to be paid out until October to the employee because they want them to stay through the whole season. So I know that's one thing that I know people are doing. It's a significant signing bonus too. Representative Austin.
Yes, thank you. I know I should know this, but what is the minimum age for someone to work in a restaurant?
You can hire under 16, 15 for sure, but they are heavily limited in what they can do. You honestly, it's like cracking a cipher to figure out the DLL rules. It varies during the summer, it varies during the school year, super complicated. 16, it's a little bit more free and clear. Then you just sort of have like equipment limitations.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
you
I'm
also
gonna,
need to be,
oh.
Heidi, you also need to be 18 to serve alcohol in a bar or restaurant.
That's right. I'm going to pass it on. Darcy, I'd like if you could just open it up. We'd like to get an overview again, more specific. You were here just a couple of weeks ago to give us an overview, but now it's right on. It's coming up for the applications open on Monday. So we want to hear from you on how it's all going to work and what your thoughts are. So
thank you so much, Representative Sherman, and to the whole caucus. Yeah, we're really excited today. People can register on the website. I put the link there, restaurants.sba.gov, to set up their account. I think that starts at 9 this morning. And Amy and Leo are probably very familiar with this race to the finish here. So that's an opportunity for people to get prepared. And that's what the agency's really been trying to do, which I really think is hopefully going to be much more helpful than like we saw with the EIDL loan and things like that, is basically teaching you what are the questions you're going to be asked on the application, where do you go to register, so that you're all set on Monday when it opens at noon. So you know what documents you need to have ready, and you basically can fill the application out. There's a sample on the website that I have there, sba.gov/restaurants, that link I put in the chat. All the questions are there. So hopefully, no big surprises. I think where the questions come in is each particular business has, separate cases. They have different affiliates. They have different, they didn't open yet, or they closed for a while due to a fire, and everyone's got a different situation. I should put the customer service line. It's 844-279-8898. I'll put that in the chat. It's a national customer service line. Obviously, this is a really new program. The press release came out like a week ago that it's, ready to launch on the 3rd of May. So we've been scrambling this week with promotion and just answering tons of inquiries, as I'm sure Amy and Leo are as well, from everybody that's interested. There's wide interest. As you guys all are familiar, this is a program that you can get a grant. You do not have to pay back for up to $10 million, $5 million per location. You can have 20 locations. So it includes a pretty wide group of people, from like a caterer, a food cart, a food truck, right up to, a larger type of, group of restaurants. I think it's a flexible program in terms of how you can use it. There's a lot of different uses: payroll, operating expenses, maintenance expenses, outdoor seating, construction, payment on debt. There's, vendor expenses, all of those things. It's pretty wide open. You have until March of 2023 to use the money. I think the biggest issue, as Amy mentioned, is that the fund of $28.6 billion is just a small fraction of what the need is. Congress is aware of that. SBA is aware of that. SBA is really encouraging people to get ready, have everything ready. Just fill out your application, get all of the documents you need ready so you can apply on Monday, and show the demand, show Congress how much this is important. And they have given indications that they would put additional funding into the program, which we don't normally hear that. So we're really hoping everybody does come out. One of the special aspects about the program is that there is a priority period in the first 21 days. And this is for businesses owned and controlled 51% or more by women, veterans, or socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, which is pretty much minority owned businesses. But they're saying it also includes people with physical disabilities, and LGBTQ could be in that priority group, and it's a self-certification. So that's a different, kind of inclusivity for that priority group that's special to this program. That's important. The way the grant amount is determined is that the most basic example would be you take 2019 gross receipts, you subtract your 2020 gross receipts. That's your pandemic related loss. From that, if you got PPP loans, you have to deduct the total amount you got that was dispersed for PPP loans from that grant amount. And that would be your net amount that you would get. If you weren't open for the full year in 2019, or you're not even open yet, but you've had expenses, related to fitting up a new restaurant, those are also eligible, and there's different calculations that are given out. We have a program guide on the website. In the application itself, it will have the different calculation methods that you choose. So it's a very guided program. There was a webinar that took a tour of the application. I don't know, Amy, if you saw that, thought that was helpful. It went a little too fast, but it actually walked you right through the whole thing. The other aspect that's a little different is one of the things that is a fraud prevention and just kind of a verification of the applicant is for us to get their tax returns verified and to make sure they really are a legitimate business, that their bank account, is in America, is totally validly associated with the business. So we go through different checks and balances. So under this application, we're encouraging those restaurants that use a point of sale system that you guys are all familiar with, like Square and Toast, Clover, and Aloha. And actually, you can apply through Square and Toast. If you use that system. It's a payment system. It also has like inventory management and all kinds of other, bells and whistles. So you can apply for this grant right through those programs. And the benefit of that is that third-party verification of the point of the, the receipts, the gross receipts. It's like a validation outside of SBA, which helps speed the processing along, because that's one of our most challenging things sometimes is because there's a lot of potential fraud, attempted fraud on our programs. So, if there's a third party verifier such as IRS or, a point of sale system, that just helps us move your application along more quickly, because we're not pondering, hey, is this legitimate or not? So that's a good thing, but we still have our portal right on SBA.gov that you can apply. So you don't have to go through a point of sale system. You can also apply by phone, although it's really not recommended because it's a much slower process. We've really encouraged people to go to the internet somewhere. If you don't have that, we can help find a place. The regional development corporations have offered. There will be people who will help you get online and do your application, but you can do it by phone. So I think the biggest issue is this race to try to get your application in and get the funding, which is limited. And with the priority period, that's 21 days. Everyone can apply on Monday at noon, no matter if you're in that priority group or not, but only those applications from the priority group will actually get processed and funded. And then after 21 days, it's open to everyone that's applied to be funded until the money's gone. So I should stop there, and you probably have some questions.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to jump in here because that was my initial question, was this first 21 days. I just want to be clear. So everybody can apply at noon on Monday, but for 3 weeks, nobody, the only applications that will be processed are those in the priority groups.
Correct.
Is there, and yet we know that there's not, it's a lot of money, 28.6 billion, but do we have any idea if there's going to be resources after that 21 days, or do people get, with the formula, with the formula, the 2019 gross receipts minus 2020 gross receipts, that's your loss, and then you subtract any PPP funds. Are they guaranteed that entire amount up to the 10 million per space, or?
Yes, that would be their grant amount.
That would be their definite grant amount. So they're not. So is it possible that many of our places that aren't in those priority groups won't get anything because the first 3 weeks are just the priority groups nationwide?
We've had a concern here locally if that might be the case. There are a lot of women-owned businesses, and there's a lot of veteran-owned businesses, and there's a lot of minority-owned businesses in the restaurant industry for sure. So hopefully there will still be some funding after that, but we'll have to wait and see. We certainly aren't discouraging anybody from applying, because this, the industry worked very closely with Congress on this, and the intention is to, really make it available to a wide group, big bandwidth of all different kinds of restaurants. So, our hope is that it does get refunded. But like Amy said, you think about the PPP program just for 2021, that was 284 billion, right, for the whole country. And that's down to it's under 40 billion now. It's since, the middle of January. That much money is gone. And this is, targeted to restaurants, but still, 28.6 billion is just really a small amount of what the need is out there.
Okay. Representative Dolan.
Thank you, and good morning, and thank you for coming today and updating us on this important program. I have a couple of questions. One is that we have in my district a number of small independent restaurants and food establishments, food truck businesses, for example. In addition to that, will there be, and yet I recognize that there are large national chains of restaurants, will there be any nod or support or focus on the smaller restaurants that are in dire need to maintain their uniqueness, their independence, the boutique qualities that they offer?
That's a great question. Thank you for that, Representative Dolan. There is, if you're publicly traded, you're not eligible. And if you have more than 20 locations, you're not eligible either. In addition to that, I'm reading my notes, there's what we call a set aside. So out of that 28.6 billion, we've got 500 million is set aside for the restaurants that make up to 50,000 a year in revenues. So that's, fairly small. There's 5 billion set aside if you make up to 500,000 in revenues, which, we see that size in Vermont a lot. And then 4 billion set aside if you're between 500,000 and 1.5 million. And this is based on your 2019 numbers. So there is, a portion set aside and that's the whole point of the priority program as well, is because those businesses that were hardest hit were the smallest, small, often women owned, often minority owned. So that's why, because, there was pushback on SBA when PPP first came out, that too much of it was taken up by more sophisticated, larger, small businesses, that, we needed to redouble our efforts and really create a head start situation for those that were more underrepresented in the aid.
Thank you. And if I may, Heidi, to ask a follow-up question. My follow-up question is, some of our restaurants also offer venues for events and weddings, for example. Will there be another program targeting these businesses as well, or is this the program that we should direct our businesses with such venues towards?
Another very good question from you there. I think that they are probably not eligible in most cases so they're not eligible for the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant, which is really about live performing arts. And it's for like movie theaters and museums. And so the restaurant one, you really have to be a place of business where you primarily go to partake of food and beverage. If it's like a dinner restaurant, like a, dinner theater type of restaurant is possibly eligible. But if it's just a venue for weddings primarily, that the venue itself wouldn't be. The caterers are eligible, however. But yeah, we're really aware that like the tent companies and the wedding planning associations and all of those people that feel pretty left out of programs. And they've been, great at explaining that need. And so we've been trying to, share what we do have. There's the ability for them to get an increase in their economic injury disaster loans, where those were capped at 150,000. You can now go up to 500,000. There's deferments on programs, but there really isn't a targeted program for them, unfortunately.
Representative Morrissey.
Yes. Did you just say that caterers are included or not? I'm sorry,
yes,
part of they are. So caterers could apply for this. Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, as long as they, the important thing is they do need to be a business. So they would need to have filed like a Schedule C or, Schedule F, something like that shows their business activity. But some people kind of have a home-based thing they do here and there once in a while, and they don't really report it as a business type of income, and they really wouldn't be able to be eligible. So it really has to be somebody, that's accounting for it as a business.
Yeah. No, thank you very much.
Sure.
So before I turn it over to Leo, because I'd like to turn it over to, Representative Austin has a question.
I'll make it quick, I think. I'm just wondering about access. I mean, do you send emails out to like I assume there's a registry of restaurants. Do you send an email out to every restaurant that would be eligible to let them know about this? Or is it just, how do people know if it's not in their front porch forum or newspaper? How do restaurants know that this is available, restaurant owners?
So we've done like a lot of media, press releases. We have sent it to every related trade group. We have sent it to all the economic development organizations. We have it translated into 17 languages, and we're working with the micro business development program in that. We're trying to do a Somali webinar. There's a huge effort in all different kinds of languages that are on our website. So the application itself, if you needed it to be in Thai or Japanese or Vietnamese or whatever, it's available. And, you know, that's where we're at right now. Representative Austin is the outreach. And hopefully you guys can help us with that. But Amy and Leo have been certainly communicating it well. And the industry has been way ahead of SBA on this. So they're definitely communicating it, but I'll let Leo and Amy also talk to that, because we can never talk about it too much, you know.
Great. Thank you so much.
Given, and Matt just wrote in the chat about that the original ask for this program was 120 billion, and it got down to 28.6. You've also indicated that there's some indication that they'll put more money into it as soon as they know it's really oversubscribed. Of course, that's not positive yet, but that's my introduction to Leo is sort of, okay, so this is where we're at now. We're not sure how. We're grateful for the program, and we need to encourage all of our folks to apply and get them in line for this money. But Leo, I'd love to have your thoughts on that, and then what else is going on? What else we might need to do to ensure success in general.
So my name is Leo O'Reilly. I'm an accountant in South Burlington, a founding member of the Vermont Independent Restaurant Coalition, and my business primarily focuses on independent restaurants around Vermont. So we've been involved with this group, this group of entrepreneurs for a very long time, 15 plus years. And so we know all the struggles that restaurant owners, and entrepreneurs in this area go through, in normal times. And certainly over the last 15 months, nothing has been anywhere close to normal. So going into, well, thank you, Heidi, and thank you to the committee. A lot of thanks to Darcy and her group, who have been outstanding throughout this in answering my questions and everybody else's questions and trying to keep calm. And I know how overwhelmed the SBA has got to be throughout this 15 months. So a big thank you to Darcy and her group. And then, so from my perspective, kind of saying a lot of the same things that we've already heard, is that we know that this program is going to be way oversubscribed. Of all the things, and I've told this to clients, and I've said this in our meetings with the chamber, is that there's no program in the last 15 months that I feel less sure about than this one. We've navigated PPP loans and EIDL grants and Vermont grants and other grants and all these programs. And I always felt like going into it, there was always this race to the finish. You always felt kind of that pressure of the race to the finish, but I always felt like, okay, if we do our job and if we're prepared, we kind of know what a likely outcome is going to be. And right now, I just feel like I'm going into this thing and really having no comfort that I know what the outcome is going to be for my clients or the restaurant industry, in Vermont. There's just no predicting how many people are going to apply, how oversubscribed this is going to be, how fast the money is going to go. I just keep telling folks that, you could get anywhere from, your full grant request to zero. And then hopefully, and hopefully the program will get funded, and there's going to be pressure to do that, but obviously there's going to be no guarantee that Congress will put additional funds into the program. I do have concerns about that is as much as there's going to be pressure, and this will show as oversubscribed, that the mantra at the moment is that businesses are opening up July 1st, everything's going to go back to normal. And this will start to feel in the rear view mirror. And I feel like that is just not going to be the reality for these business owners, and a lot of small business owners, not just in the restaurant industry, but certainly in the restaurant industry. We indicated earlier with Amy's discussion that there's going to be workforce issues that are going to be nationwide, but nowhere more pronounced than here in Vermont. So kind of with that as the backdrop, which is very similar to what you've heard already, what are we doing to try to make sure that we're prepared and that anybody that we're in contact with is prepared for this? And Darcy already has touched on a lot of these things, so I apologize for the repetition, but you got to hear things 3 times before you get it in your head. Is register today. People should register today. Get their account open, make sure that you're able to log in successfully, that you don't have any issues. You have from now until Monday at noon to get your account resolved. And then make sure that you have all of your information pulled together, which will be 3 months of bank statement. So if you're applying through the most straightforward route, which is 2019 tax return, 2020 tax return, you'll need 3 months, the most recent months of bank statements. You'll have to, be prepared to sign a request for a transcript. Just make sure you go through the application. We are literally pre-filling the application on the PDF that was provided from the SBA, so that when we're sitting down and doing the applications with clients, that we are just literally transcribing the information at that point. We've already done all of our homework. We're ready to go. All the documents are in the PDF format, ready to be uploaded. And literally, we are just at noon on Monday, we are transcribing the information from these PDFs, and we have a folder with the documents. Those get uploaded. I am hoping that every application that we're involved with takes between 5 and 10 minutes. That we're not looking for things at that point. We're not looking for EINs. We're not looking for copies of tax returns. That everything is already prepared and ready to go. Because that's going to be your best foot forward. Is things are going to go into a queue, and to the extent they're complete and ready to go, Darcy's group at the SBA will start working on applications. My concern is that if an application has a hiccup, that hiccup can be addressed, but that application will be put aside. And as soon as it's put aside, I think that you're going to lose out on this program. So you have to do everything that you can to make sure that your application is not put aside, that it goes through smoothly, that there's no questions, documents are complete, everything is signed, because that's going to be your best foot forward in this program. So kind of with all that, said, we're very appreciative that this money is out there. We know it's a fraction of what the need is. We really feel that restaurants are going to not be okay for the next year and a half. Because after this program is done, and even if it gets refunded, if there's additional funding to it and what have you, at least from my feeling, and I don't know how Darcy feels about this, is there's no additional aid coming, right? We have this Vermont grant program, that'll get allocated out. We'll have this RRF, that'll get allocated out, and that by July 1st, any aid that, for businesses will have been exhausted, and they'll have a window to use that money. At some point, that money will definitely run out, and then you'll have to rely on, that your business has recovered, and we don't really see any kind of full recovery until we're through 2022. So hopefully that gives you kind of an overview of where our thinking is, and probably best for me to take some questions and try to clarify our thoughts.
Sure. Representative Jerome.
Thank you, Leah. It was insightful, and I have a lot of work to do today to get the word out to my constituents. I don't, this question may be for Darcy. What, in my communities, there, a lot of the restaurants are owned 50-50, a husband and wife, or spouses, or business partners are male and female. And it just seems like that's really sort of the norm. And what do we tell those people to do? I feel like they're getting through no fault of their own, they're getting pushed to the back of the line because they're not wholly owned. They're not a woman-owned business, or what happens to these people?
I'll let Darcy give you the bad news on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Definitely has to be 51% or more owned and controlled. And that's been a long-standing rule for how we make that determination. So I share your pain on that, because I know in Vermont, it's very common to have a husband and wife team, or, two partners.
Right. I mean, I feel like it's almost the norm, and that so many of our businesses are owned by a male and a female partner, and if they have a 50-50 split, then they're once again going sort of the back of the line. And I'd like to see them bump them up if I can, right? I mean, let's want our Vermont restaurants to survive.
Yeah, and we certainly, and we do have clients in that exact situation. It is very common that a husband and wife, or partners, own the business together, and everything is split 50-50. And then the issue, and Darcy will, I'm sure back me up on this, is that there's also no changing it now, because we've gotten that question. Well, what if we file something with the Secretary of State and say that now she owns 51% and I own 49%, because they don't care, typically. Like, it's not a business concern, they just have always looked at it like we work this together and we own 50% each, but there's no concern whether one owns 51 and the other owns 49. And I'm like, no, you cannot do that. You cannot go now and change what you were in 2019, that the SBA will view that negatively. And
okay. Thanks. It's unfortunate, because you're right. I mean, everyone looks at that like 50-50, we're partners, and in no way, of course, before pandemic, when no one ever thought that.
Yeah, and we've run into that. And I'm sure that Darcy, probably hears about this more even than I do, or more nuanced situations throughout this, where all these programs, whether it's the PPP or other programs, always have some kind of almost unintended consequence. Because it's just impossible, at Congress to think of every single nuance of how things are structured through all these different types of businesses throughout the entire country. And it's like, well, I don't know how you guys didn't think of this that we're faced with. Well, it's the 1 in a million, or whatever. And then you just have to say, okay, we just got to go by the rules. We were running into this with, some tap room breweries who didn't qualify for the, enhanced PPP because they weren't considered a restaurant, right? I mean, that was just like, well, that's an arbitrary decision. Like 50%, 60% of their sales are food, but because they were classified as a brewery, they didn't get the 3.5 months of PPP, and we just had to deliver that bad news. And I think we drove the SBA crazy on one of them, who was not going to let me off the hook easily, because business, the entrepreneurs are tenacious, but we had to be like, no, I'm sorry, that you're a brewery and you're not going to qualify for that, and that is somewhat of an arbitrary, unintended consequence. But
yeah, thank you. I think we're all aware of the unintended. We're in our business, so we're all aware of the unintended consequences. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So I'd like to just hear so this is the federal program. I'd like to get an update. Maybe Amy and Leo can give us an update on where we are with regard to the state stuff, and what help there is at least being discussed in our legislative committees, and as we move into these last 3 weeks and appropriating dollars, including some of those federal dollars, 1.3 billion, that I know that the governor had introduced a $50 million additional monies for the economic recovery grants. From what I understand, the Senate was talking about reducing that to 20 million this year. I don't know where that stands, but if you could give us an idea, and so that we can look out for things going on and we can advocate for this industry, that would be great. I don't know who, Amy or Leo, I don't know who to.
Yeah, I'll let Amy talk a little bit more, and then I'll.
Yeah, I'll kick it off, and then I'll pass over to Leo, because he's been a big point of contact with Charles on UI in particular, PPP taxability. But on the economic recovery grant side of things, you know, I think it's no secret or surprise to anyone that 20 million is not going to meet the needs of the hospitality industry. Even when that 50 million was announced, you know, we balked at that, because we know from an ACCD report that I believe in the NAICS Code 72 alone that got fully funded up to 300,000, there was still unmet need of 200 million, I think it was. Leo, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think it was around 200 million of unmet needs. So that's in one sector alone. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention also that operating as a takeout business is the most expensive way to operate a restaurant. So you're looking at a business whose margins are usually as low as like 5%, 3%. And then you tack on additional costs of doing business, and your profitability just plummets. So just pointing out that operating as to go, while it might seem robust for a restaurant, like, oh, it's great, they've got a line waiting to pick up their orders, it's nowhere near the level of business that they need for that they would need for the in-person dining. So, you know, first marching with, you know, economic recovery grants are going to be so critical, especially because we know the funds at the federal level are going to be exhausted so quickly. And while there's positive indication at the federal level that RRF could be refilled, it's just an indication at this point in time. And I like to not bet on hopes and dreams. So, you know, making sure that we really bring the point home here that the whole hospitality industry is not okay, and they have a long road to recovery. You know, something that will certainly help the industry that's moving, I know it was in Representative Byron's bill that was out of House General and now out of Senate Economic Development, are the alcohol to go provisions through July 2023 or till July 2023. That's like a safety net. You know, you have an industry that's used to changing operations on a dime over the last year and a half, which is not the norm of operating. And that will really allow for a wind down period of the program if it does get wound down, or it also gives a chance for the study that the Senate added in to see what is, you know, how does this positively impact the restaurant industry? And then also on the social side from public safety, you know, is there an impact there? So, you know, that is important. I also especially want to thank this group for their work on the tourism funding. You know, Representative Harrison, I know he was on here earlier, but I maybe fought tooth and nail to get it up to 2.5 million for just destination marketing. And then in the Senate, it was reduced down to 1.25 for destination marketing and 750 K for regional marketing initiatives, I guess is the summary of the way to put it. And, you know, one thing that we would love to see there is more flexibility for the department. Yesterday, the department submitted, I think it's on Senate Economics Committee page, language that gives flexibility in that 2 million. So if you're going to reduce it from 2.5 to 2, why don't we give a little bit of flexibility versus being so prescriptive? Because we're entering into a very, very crowded marketplace. We've got 80 million people within a day's drive. Most indications are that people are going to vacation within a day's drive, and we are consistently outspent by every single surrounding state. So anything we can do to preserve those funds to get people here to restaurants. 40 for in a non-tourist town, 40% of a restaurant's business is reliant on the traveling public. In a tourism town, so somewhere like Killington where I live, it's 70% of a restaurant's business is dependent on tourism dollars. So, making sure we welcome guests back to the state is going to be critically important. I'll pause there and let Leo add in on other issues he's been working with us on as well, or take questions.
Yeah, and I'll just, the things that I've been working on with Charles is, that are important, we think, for, these small businesses is, the S10 bill for unemployment, and making a reasonable path toward, having their UI rates stay low and not have claims charged to their account that were related to the pandemic. Charles and I are now working directly with, Cameron Wood at the department on, how to, craft the actual, documentation that they're going to require to comply with that once S10 is the law. And then,
sorry, I just want to interrupt because I want to make sure I'm clear. S10, I know it was the UI bill and it was talking about the benefit increases over time plus a $50 per week, I think. Where is that bill right now at this point?
well, I think they were taking additional testimony this week on it.
Is
in my committee.
Oh, it passed the Senate, so it's in the House committee.
It's in our committee, and we're working on it. Yeah, and we're working closely to figure out a sensible way forward on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to, okay. That's what I want to, I just want to know what we need to keep our eyes on and
Right.
Are you focused also, Leo, on the taxability of the PPP?
Yeah, we've provided, testimony, on that, and and our feeling, especially because of, the loans that are going to be primarily taxed by this were the ones that went to, were targeted towards the smaller businesses that had at least a 25% decline in their revenues. There were certain benchmarks that you had to meet to qualify for the 2021 PPP, and that's the PPP that is now going to be taxed. It's just, it seems, just kind of hurting the businesses that need the help the most. And I understand, that there's, an issue. Well, if you have a profit, what have you, maybe you should pay some tax on that. My feeling is that this money has to extend well beyond 2021. In some way. I know they have to use it in payroll. There's a window, for that money to be used, but the businesses are able to then, run fiscally conservative, overall, and, just create a runway for their recovery through the next probably 18 to 20 months.
So Amy, where is that? Where is that issue right now? Where is it being discussed? Where do we need to pay attention with regard to the taxability of the PPP? Is that being discussed in Senate Finance, or is it in House Ways and Means?
I believe it's a parallel conversation that's happening right now. I don't think that there's a piece of legislation moving on that in particular at the moment, but it's a conversation that's happening on both sides, because I do think that there seems to be recognition that perhaps it's an issue that, it's something that shouldn't have been taxed. And I think we're getting there, but it's being discussed both in the Senate and in the House. So on the House side, it would be in Ways and Means for discussion.
Okay,
Right,
and I'm
was
going to go to these
testimony
questions.
for-
I'm going to go to these two questions, but the economic recovery grants discussion, the was in Senate Economic Development, I know, that would reduced it from 50 million to 20 million. Is that still in economic development, or has that moved to appropriations?
So the money went to appropriations already, and I believe it was already discussed, but this H-159 that went over to the Senate that had the economic recovery grants, that's still in Senate Economic Development. I believe they're taking additional testimony from Joan Goldstein this morning.
Okay.
And I think their intent might be to vote on that bill today.
Okay, and the tourism funding pieces, that was, if I'm not mistaken, there was part of that in Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, part of that in 315, but part of it was a budget or something, or was it all in the budget that Jim got in there for the 2.5 additional?
Right, that what Jim did when he bumped that up, yeah, that was in 315, and then this is, yeah, this additional 50s. Well, we had 50 from the House side for this set amount, and then
No, but the 50 was that the governor had was for economic recovery grants. I'm talking about the tourism funding, the market. Was that he got the additional 2.5 million?
Yeah, exactly. What was that? I can't.
That was in the H-159.
Yeah.
That was in
H-159, but it's really a budget discussion too. It's because that was general fund and then one-time funds.
I think they ended up moving it to ARPA money.
Okay.
Yeah, but I believe the amount of 2 million was already sent to Senate Appropriations.
Okay.
So it's kind of moving in tandem. Like there's like Senate Economic Development and Appropriations are having those discussions. But again, I think 159, the intention is to vote on it out of committee today.
All right, I'm going to try to get all of this information into one document for the caucus so that we know what's going on and see if we can encourage our colleagues in a certain direction. Representative Dolan.
I just wanted to mention that I talked with Janet Ansell, the chair of Ways and Means, and she said that the Senate Finance is taking up the issue about the 2021 PPP forgiven loans and the tax exempt status there. So I know they took testimony last week. I don't know where it is since then, but I think Senate was supposed to take the lead on it.
And I think the only thing to point out, just to make sure, kind of all on the same page here with the PPP taxability is that, it was included in the H-315. That law is now the law of the land. And, whatever has to happen to undo that has to be through a new bill. And I'm not sure that bill is quite drafted yet. I'm not sure where that's at, but just to be clear that it is currently the law.
Well, I had heard that it was going to be it could be part of the big bill. So for 2021.
But he's saying that right now we included it in H-315, which I must have missed that in 315. I don't know. There wasn't much.
There was no testimony taken on it, and it was put in at the very last, part of the discussion on the bill before it went to the Senate and then to the governor.
So that's our bad.
Everybody missed it.
What?
We all missed it.
We all missed it, and that's what I don't want to do that again. So,
no,
but right now that's the law.
Really does not feel good as a constituent.
Yeah. I mean, that's, and now, like you said, Leo, that passed and was signed into law. I don't even know if it was signed actually.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, the governor did not sign it, for that reason. And I think there were a couple of other things, but he let it, but he did not veto it and allowed it to become the law. So it is the law.
Yeah. So we need to work hard to get that reversed.
And I talked to Janet and she said, put pressure is on the Senate side.
Well, we can do it on the House side too, right? I mean,
she thought that the House she was in support of making it tax exempt. So we need to really work on the Senate
but again,
side.
But Carrie, it was put in the House. That's where it was put in. So
we are told that they had time to fix 2021, but the Senate wasn't sure that they wanted to, because we have this annual requirement to what's the term of art we use to hook up to the federal tax laws.
To conform.
That they thought we had time to address 2021.
Yeah, and I have, and I'm sorry I keep pushing myself in here, but
no, we appreciate it.
Because my concern with that there's this feeling that there's time, because I've heard that over and over again, is that the money for these businesses is being spent now, and they have to budget for it now, and they have to finish spending it sometime in the next, depending upon the business, but certainly before July. right? All the money needs to be spent before July. And if we're sitting with a client saying, well, there's going to be a certain portion of this that you have to set aside for taxes. First of all, the permitted use of the money is not for taxes. So they but they have to budget for the taxes, and they have to spend the money before July. So I feel like time is of the essence, because they have to have a clear path to do their fiscal management of their business. So I kind of implore everybody, let's get this resolved soon, because it just creates.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you.
Leo, I think that's important, and I think this will be something that Stephanie, I'm going to reach out to you today to see if we want to do something immediately as a caucus in the House or in the Senate. If there's another tax bill coming up in the House, maybe it's an amendment and getting it. And if we have to do that, we have to do that.
Yeah, I know it's a great concern. So I think it's being worked on, but I'll try to figure out where we are on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leo, we'll work on that and the other things as well.
Appreciate that.
Me and Leo. Okay, it looks like we got to get to, some of us have to get to committee. This was excellent. Thank you so much, Darcy. Thank you for your help.
Yeah.
I'm going to send out all of her links that she put in the chat. Make sure we get that information out to our constituents so that they get pre-registered, that they're all set for everything come noon on Monday. And then the other four items we need to pay attention to and work on. I'll get that out to the caucus too. Leo, Amy, Darcy, thank you again for being with us, and it was really informative and really helpful for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Right.
And,
Thank
yep,
you.
and if
Thank
you
you,
ever need
Heidi.
anything, let me
Leo,
know.
I'll be in touch. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. Thanks. Bye.